Hey, everybody, and welcome. I'm Haley Mitchell Haugen, and I'm the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight we've gathered to celebrate Chuck Salmons' new book, Surviving the EREMOCENE. Very excited. It's been out for a couple months now. We're just kind of getting around to celebrating. So we're very excited to have Ohio's own Chuck Salmons here. And we also have some readers from Sheila-Na-Gig's Fall Online 2025 issue as well. So I'm going to read a little blurb about the book. It's collected lots of nice blurbs for this book, but I'm going to read the one by Jim Daniels at the beginning of the book here. It says, Chuck Salmons is a fine, fine poet, with his feet firmly planted in the Midwest, even when his eyes are raised to the sky, even when he is physically far away. He brings together a love of science and a love of the unknown. He mixes global headlines with neighborhood playgrounds, all the humility and tenderness for our complicated, conflicted country. In a series of deeply moving family poems, he examines the weight of limited possibilities, the compromised choices of working class life. His rich imagery gives depth to the hard-earned emotions of these poems. They are memorable and heartfelt. Readers will feel their own hearts responding in this age of loneliness, reminding us that ultimately we are not alone, that we need each other to survive. That's Jim Daniels' blur. I think it's just a wonderful way to capture so much about the collection. And I know most of us here tonight are know Chuck well from the poetry venues, but I'm going to read his little bio as well. So Chuck Salmons has served as a leader for the Ohio Poetry Association for more than a decade. His poems have appeared in numerous journals and anthologies, including Chiron Review, the Fib Review, Evening Street Review, Ekphrastic Review, Main Street Mag, Pudding Magazine, and I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing, Ohio's Appalachian Voices. He's previously published 3 collections, Stargazer Suite, Patch Job, and The Grace of Gazing Inwards, Poems in Response to the Art of Alice Carpenter. Chuck received the 2018 Ohio Arts Council Individual Excellence Award, and let me tell you, those are tough to get. And he performs with the poetry trio Concrete Wink. So great to have you here, Chuck, and to be celebrating Surviving the EREMOCENE. Welcome.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Haley. Thank you so much. Thanks for everybody who's tuned in. I'm going to dive right in. So, speaking of headlines, the headline is an epigraph for this poem. The headline is Russia strikes playground in Kiev after blaming Ukraine for Crimea bridge attack. And that's from Vice.com in October of 2022. This is Poem for the New School Year. Overhead, against the blue scalp of October sky, 2 olive drab Hueys rumble aloft, loaded with Army reservists on a training flight. Meanwhile, on the Liberty Elementary playground, a jungle gym bounces with boys maneuvering the monkey bars. Too big for the apparatus, they bend their legs at the knees to avoid dragging their feet in the mulch bed below. They swing, stutter bar to bar, wingspans too great for such small gaps between grips. Who would tell them they are far too old for this play? Who would push them so quickly into manhood, those long years burdened by more questions than answers? Even now, when their flesh has begun to sweat and stink, their desires checked only by body-to-body collisions on basketball courts or football fields. They find simple joy in the sway of long legs above the ground, like soldiers in those choppers, expecting nothing but a soft landing. So a lot of the poems in this book stemmed from me approaching the age of 50 and then turning 50 and I did research on, all these things that happened in the year I was born, and um, it's really interesting. If you've never done that as an exercise, especially as a poet, do it. Look it up. Just start researching what happened in the year, X. And I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised by some of the things you find. I like history, but I'm not a historian, so it was fun. So this is one of those poems that was kind of inspired by something that I learned, something I knew, but I guess I had forgotten. And I dedicate it to my good friend Darren Cortica, who is a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and he turned 50 just a few months before I did. So we kind of shared this experience, of hitting that milestone. This is titled Perfection. It's a young man's dream. The one we've grown old enough to concede is unobtainable, unwarranted, except in the year we were born, when Shula and the Dolphins won it all, start to finish, vanquishing what would become your beloved Steelers, who reaped the glory of their immaculate reception the week before. It calls into question the will of the divine, how it reconciles a playful penchant for tinkering while appearing impartial. Did your parents watch Super Bowl VII, expecting the same result as you lay warm in your mother's belly? Would my own? It took the NFL 52 years to produce perfection. On the eve of our own half centuries, we accept flawlessness as something only nature can spawn. Hyacinth blossoms perfuming April air, a sun-crisp apple's tart sweetness, its flesh rose and gold in your hand. Ocean surf pounding Cannon Beach, haystack and the needles black against the Pacific horizon, emerald sea glass awash at your feet. Your son's laughter as he shrugs yet another of your would-be tackles in a friendly backyard game of football. Those moments between moments when we relinquish our incessant need to know, succumb to an ineffable impulse to let go. I grew up a Bengals fan, so, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Um, Lots of family poems in the book, as was mentioned in the blurb from Jim Daniels, and this is a little family poem. Tells you maybe a little bit about my upbringing, my background. How not to spell cello. In our family, the only instruments that mattered were guitars and drums, maybe a banjo, plucked with perfection by Dr. Ralph Stanley on my grandfather's AM radio every Sunday after service at Highlock Baptist Church. Finer stringed instruments were expensive things that other kids learned to play. Kids whose parents worked for banks and accounting firms, who could afford dance lessons and ski club memberships, or listen to Handel, Bach, and Brahms. Kids raised Catholic or maybe Episcopalian, their sermons steeped in the beauty of Latin chants and not hellfire, damnation. They walked out of stone cathedrals with stained glass windows, feeling purified. We walked out of our chaste white church afraid, even to ask real questions, the ones our school teachers wanted to answer, but retained for fear of retribution by parents who saw education as a sanitized means to an end, where their children grab a diploma and head either to recruitment office or steel mill. My parents played Elvis, the Stones, Skinnered. No piccolos or violas in their tunes, no cellos either, with or without an H. When I stepped off the stage during fifth grade spelling bee at Stockbridge Elementary, I knew Adam Fisher would be the last student standing. He would receive his trophy and a handshake from the school principal and walk off the stage into the arms of his parents, well dressed and quietly smiling, as if they had been moved by yet another performance by the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. So, sticking with the theme of music here, another sort of childhood memory poem, if you will. And this one is about my father, who I historically have written a lot of poems about. Those of you who are familiar with my work know this is the case. In large part because I have a very interesting relationship with my father. So we're very, very different people. But as we've gotten older, we seem to have come to a better understanding of each other, which I am grateful for. Rock. Stonemasons make bad guitarists. Their muscle-bound hands lumber, pick stiff notes that fall hard on ears, like limestone stacked piece by piece, to keep out the cool crowd to which my father never belonged. Dreamers who need more than rhythm, who dance with streamers, scalps dressed in scarlet feathers, stage light flickering off sequin shoes, who seek only rapture, not sculpture. When I was young, my father plucked his six string on Friday nights, the Standell's Dirty Water, a warm-up before unleashing his fingers to improvise songs without names and seemingly without end. He played long into evening. Mosquitoes and moths danced against the front screen door, lured more by melody than table lamp glow. Now his music lies buried by the hardened history of a landscaper's toil. Had he followed his heart's song and joined the Navy, his hands might be slender still, fingers flitting from string to string, freeing notes deep within. He might smile and sway, strumming a season song of 1,000 nights at sea. Thank you very much. So I'm going to read the title poem from the collection. And this poem was inspired by an article by Brooke Jarvis that I read in the New York Times several years ago. The article was really focused on the dying off of insects that we're seeing around the globe and how it is a sign of other more serious things that are happening to our planet. But there was a sentence in this article that just stuck with me and really inspired the poem, where Brooke Jarvis writes, "The world never feels fallen because we grow accustomed to the fall." And I think that is the case for us right now. We seem to be growing accustomed to it and don't realize how rapidly it is falling. So EREMOCENE is it means age of loneliness, and it was a term that was made popular by the naturalist E.O. Wilson. And it basically refers to the period of Earth history when human beings will slowly become more alone on the planet because of the dying off of species, different species. And because of that, we will have this increasing sense of being isolated. Surviving the Eremocene. You felt it early in life when a friend sucker punched you, your other friend laughing along as you sulked from the playground. The morning challenger's debris traipsed the uncluttered sky like burning bits of doubt, littering your mind about one day riding rockets. The afternoon your father forgot to pick you up from soccer practice, sending you and your brother searching for a payphone. And later, that same plunging when students fled Columbine, when you saw bodies drop from smoking monoliths the day the towers fell, and two, when pitch scorched and blackened the Gulf sky above BP's horizon. Then again, when you held your mother's hand as the needle flooded her veins with chemicals to crush cancer in her lymph nodes. Now, that same worm in your stomach rises into your chest as you watch Charlottesville, Minneapolis, Kenosha. Walnut and hickory trees bear meager fruit. Heirloom tomatoes wilt as mere blossoms. Fewer butterflies and honeybees bounce in the prairies. Above you, magenta clouds loom, concealing stars once looked to for guidance. Locust trees lob their leaves to the wind like confetti at the end of summer's parade, as you gaze at clouds scudding through a sky falling farther away, and wonder why the divine did not gift us with wings. Thank you. Thank you, Marcy. That's really high praise. I really appreciate that. Um, I have two more, Haley, that planned. I don't know if that's on schedule, but um, this poem came from a trip to the Laurel Highlands region of southwestern Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful part of the Midwest and the Appalachians. Um, One thing that's noteworthy about the area is that there are a number of Frank Lloyd Wright designed houses there, including the famous Falling Water. And so this poem was inspired by a visit to Falling Water with my wife. Life is but a dream house. Stairs and terraces cascade down the hillside. Eurythmic echo of Bear Run spilling into Youghiogheny Rapids. I thought it would be bigger, this weekend getaway for a wealthy Pittsburgh family. Such is its reputation, luring visitors from around the world, including a Belgian couple we make as fast friends. He an architect, she a photographer, drawn to this uniquely American Mecca. Their easy smiles and French accents bubble through thick summer air. We share their delight for Wright's clever details. Window corners without mullions, sandstone outcrops jutting into a living room, a canopy cantilevering a walkway, a swimming pool fed by a mountain spring. The docent reminds us how constant water flows from the hills, the house prone to decay, like nations and dreams, despite the designer's vision, the builder's best intentions, the owner's steadfast care. We move deliberately from space to space, compressed and released, like rhododendron blossoms that burst open in woods around us. The blurred line between inside and outside unfolds in subtle ochre and Cherokee red. We tour and talk, take in the view. You know the one, the house hanging in apparent harmony with its host site. We snap a photo, stand in awe, content with the idea simply to live in the guest house. Relish light music cast by sun through single pane windows. creek song tumbling through our ears. Ushered by a security guard, we are last to leave. We hug one another, exchange email addresses, part in friendship. We exit in opposite directions. No one will ever build a house like this again. So I have one more poem that I had picked out. And then I'm really looking forward to the open mic. I want to thank all of you again for joining in tonight. I know there are a lot of things you could be doing on a Thursday evening, and especially around dinner time. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And thanks again to Haley for publishing the book. And yeah, so we're in autumn, right? You know, maybe most of the leaves, at least here in Ohio, I think most of the leaves are starting to disappear from the trees, but it is autumn, and so I thought, well, I'll close with an very autumn poem. This is Gathering Leaves with My Son. He tells me the whoosh and crackle is a pile of crumpled paper, a million crinkled report cards with rotten grades, ready to bag and burn before parents read them and impose punishment. I tell him the crash is ocean surf, washing ashore its flotsam, lifeless leaves with edges mimicking seashells, scalloped oak, serrated maple and birch, and ginkgo fanning out lobes like two halves of a clam. I explain even detritus finds a purpose. Squirrels sculpt their drays and dens with dead leaves, fallen twigs, hollowed husks of acorns and walnuts rot, feed the soil. Seashells harden into limestone for bridges and buildings. But how to tell him what will become of our own ash and bones? How to prepare him to scatter what's left of me, partly among lichen and moss, partly at sea? We keep raking up metaphors, fleeting testaments to moments when we still need one another to push back against the world, defy its tendency to cast aside what it deems no longer useful. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time, your listening.
Thank you, Chuck. It was lovely to get back into those poems. It's been a while since we chatted about them, so it's just wonderful to hear you read them. And I was so drawn in, I forgot to put the link up, but I'll put that up in the chat in just a second. So we have been enjoying Surviving the EREMOCENE, new collection from Ohio's Chuck Salmons. And now we will be moving into our invited mic portion of the evening. And we have contributors to Sheila-Na-Gig Online's fall 2025 issue. And we'll be starting out with Judy Kleinberg. So Judy, take it away for us.
Great. That was really wonderful, Chuck, and thank you. I took a swerve in the middle of Chuck's reading and set aside the poems that I was going to read and decided I would also call my father into the room here. And I'm going to read you a single poem, and it's a father poem. It uses, in the poem, I used the word mishpacha, which is a Yiddish word that means family. Element 109. A manila folder in my father's bottom drawer is crammed with notes and letters, copies of articles and chapters, pages ripped from magazines, Nature, Science, Chemistry in Britain. Mishpacha, he calls her, claiming her as kin. His mother's second cousin, Lisa Meitner. Physicist, he calls her, the word complicated and foreign in our family of lawyers and housewives. Judgment fogged by misogyny, anti-Semitism, the Nobel Committee overlooks her discoveries in nuclear fission, awards her colleague the Nobel Prize. My father is furious. He appoints himself her posthumous publicist, corresponding with authors, querying historians, copying, stapling, mailing bits of this family lore to a widening circle of mildly curious cousins. Words highlighted, names underlined, margins marked with arrows and exclamation points. In his engineer's hand, my father pencils letters, rehearses the questions he will pose on the phone, puzzles out the known pieces of the jigsaw. Many are missing. But each paragraph in print is a small acknowledgement, vindication, apology for a brilliant life lived in shadow. 3 months before my father dies, his course already clear, his work mostly done, he sends round the last triumphant clips. His grandmother's name, our cousin's name, mapped into the heart of the periodic table, element 109, Meitnerium, honored, official, numbered, named, radioactive, unstable, brimming with secrets. Thank you.
Okay, I've unmuted. I'm Catherine. My first one is an earth poem, and it's called Corrasions, and I think the poem explains what it means, because I didn't know what it meant when I started writing it. Corrations, and it's epistolary too. Sweetheart, do you remember our trip to the Grand Canyon, that grand corrasion, an ancient, still ongoing erosion by the river running a mile below the snowy rim? That place where everything has changed but looks eternal. There we saw the whole long shadow of life in an instant, while our time together hid among rocks like abandoned cities. My own corrasion, though smaller, has also been slow, from years of glaciers and wind. The earth is warming, but I've been carved by ice, scraped and abraded, corraded. I invite you to visit, inspect my deep grooves of ardor, admire how well I've ground down. Where you passed briefly in a flood of gravel has made me a concavity echoed by air. Press in your fingers, you'll know. The time since you left feels very long. Tell me, do you think our history has been circular or straight or phantom trail? Missing you more each day. And the next one is timely, and it's a poem from the past at the same time. Authoritarianism Redux. People are feeling more afraid, like we did with our super anxious mother whose tranquilizers did nothing for her, swiftly changing moods, unassailable by fact, unmovable by protest. Is this why now feels so familiar? Asks my sister. Growing up, we didn't fear physical harm or getting kicked out, only sudden unjust accusations, the total lack of due process, what might happen next. It was only a matter of time till we'd feel another full-body adrenaline freeze, the force of a random paw that swiped us into collapse, swept us into the black hole inside our mother's brain. There ought to be a law, our lawyer father quipped, citing the title of his favorite comic strip. But at home there was no court, no such thing as a public defender, no jury of our peers. Locked up with our helpless jailer, we'd rage and sorrow, plot our escape, and theorize about the law, how it wasn't made to perfect the world, but damn well ought to fix what was wrong. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm just going to read two very short poems. This one opens a collection I'm just about to publish. It's called I Once Read. I once read a person misplaces up to 9 objects a day. Painted clay ashtrays, cherry red hula hoops, china dolls, and diamond rings. A father at 6. By 60, we have lost 200,000 things. And then just one other one, which is an old love. I'm taking it a little bit away from current events, so, but I think we all have memories of old loves somewhere. Leaving me in Dunleary. You and I fell in that ruined city of evenings so slow they pushed back into afternoons. Bitters and limes stuck to our tongues until I was alone in the pitch of your tin whistle. Too high for someone raining down as your morning savior. No survivor. You would vow to marry another woman from this brown city, one who would beat her Boran for you. Thank you.
I decided to read one for my father as well. And then I have one from a previous issue of Sheila-Na-Gig, and they're both pretty short. So this one for my father is called Sanctification, or the Ongoing Saga of My Inheritance of Prunes. In the 3,082 days since my father died, prunes have accompanied me to the East Coast and Midwest and Northwest and Southeast, to Lisbon and Sydney, Hawaii and Paris. I carry an emergency stash in my go-to-work bag in case in my hurry to leave I forget to taste. Sometimes I swallow them nearly whole like an oyster. Sometimes I chew them more thoughtfully as if at a tasting. Sometimes they sit on my tongue like a sanctified wafer, the host decomposing, my body finishing the work the sun began. Occasionally my teeth hit a sharp bit the bitter mist, and I flinch as if hit. Remember the bitter, the pain that sometimes even the softest, sweetest things hold within. And the other one that I want to read, I think, is it was written for a friend whose husband has dementia, and she's just a beautiful caregiver, and it really inspired me. And it also has a pit in it, I think. Gathering mangoes. The ground is littered with fruit, and I stoop over and over and over, knees creaking, awed by the abundance, the wind blown and underripe, others dropping heavy with juice, skin splitting. Some infested with insects and larvae, some pocked with holes where they had been pecked by birds, some already gnawed to the pit by whatever nocturnal creature feasted. Most wear a wound, soft spots where the force of gravity and ground took its toll. I sort them into piles, too small, too damaged, those rare few unmarked, most salvageable with patience and a tender knife. A skillful hand works around the bruise. Thank you.
I think I'm next. Hi, everybody. Anyway, so I'm going to read from my poem from this issue of Sheila-Na-Gig, the fall issue, and then, like several other people, I'll read a poem about my father too. I think we have a father chain. So this first one is called Turns, and it's the one that's in the fall issue. Turns. These days, my mother asks me to transcribe notes for her, a graduation card to a grandchild, condolences to the children of her best friend. More and more gaps punctuate her speech. She doesn't know how often her phrases repeat. I'm sorry, I wish, I'm glad, I wish, I'm sorry. I sit across from her at the low table in front of her wheelchair, pen hovering. Her eyes fade in and out of focus. Shadows drift across her face. I remember watching my daughters, how their faces bloomed when they searched, then found the words they wanted me to write for them. Stories they illustrated with scrawls, like my own when I was small, when my mother was the one with pen poised, waiting. So thanks. And the second one I'll read, I have published just one book. It's called When Light Shifts. And it's about the aftermath of my mother's cerebral hemorrhage. So this takes place when my mother had just had the hemorrhage and was in the hospital, and my father was driving me nuts because I had to be his caregiver. And at that time, she was 81 and he was 92. And I'll say he just had his 99th birthday. And she is also still with us. So this is called My Mother in the Hospital and My Father. And that's also the first line of the poem. My mother in the hospital and my father, like the cat we took in from the cold, scarred, half blind, quick skitter and claw, suddenly on the counter when my back is turned, stealing Thanksgiving turkey. Then beneath my heel as I step from the stove, warm gravy splatters the floor, my clothes. I want to scream. I want to put him out or lock him in an upstairs room. And yet he cannot help what he does not understand. I scratch his broken ears, stroke his spine. I am afraid of how hard it grows to forgive his wiry hiss, his purr as he fattens on all I have dropped. Thank you.
I have two poems that I'll read. The first is a poem from Sheila-Na-Gig, and I think it's self-explanatory. It's called Jurassic Bark. We track her changing shape from glass to churn to chop below our cliffside condo. What swims beneath Lake Erie's surface bewitches my husband, who dreams of wrestling and releasing a huge sturgeon. Their young are loosed into the Miami River each year to migrate downstream to Erie. I find the fish strange, unchanged from Jurassic times. They can live 150 years, grow to 20 feet. Bony scutes armor their backs, bellies, and sides. Their barbels tickle riverbeds. Snouts snuffle lake muck for snails, worms, and crayfish. I root for their safe passage. The prehistoric prowlers siphon invasive zebra mussels, transport freshwater mussel larvae to battle algae blooms. This lake feels like home to us, a fitting place to scatter ashes. I hope to rest in Erie sediment. My husband yearns for a surgeon to vacuum up his ashes, roam our lake's benthic zone, leaving more ashes to drift into roaring Niagara, tumble her thunder into Lake Ontario, float eastward on the St. Lawrence River, chill for a spell in her estuary, then spill into the ancient brine where life began. Thank you. That is his final wish.
And this poem is from my chapbook, Through Line by Finishing Line Press. It's called Wings. The robin flies over snowy roads, the robin flies low over snowy yards, lands in the road, and, cocking its head the way robins do, searches for worms. It's a kind of day, 44 degrees, drizzle, rippling rings and puddles, sky blending with snow smudged by exhaust, that keeps most humans nesting in armchairs by the window. But a robin's got to eat, and the doctor says you've got to walk. Leaves pale as poster wrap cling to alders. A string of plastic berries festoons a small pine. Desiccated hydrangeas punctuate rain-blackened trees. A southwest wind weaves the topmost branches of an oak through the sky's loom. And now a robin, who's no longer a robin, sits at the tarmac's edge, motionless ball of feathers and fluff, beak open, eyes shut. You watch one futile wing waft up, a burst of orange, salute to passing brilliance, and pray that your own fledgling, winging unknown skies after countless false starts, meets mercy wherever he lands. Thank you.
My name is David Oliveira, and my first poem is called Mint Garden. I wasn't cut out to be a farmer as much as I've tried, even within the small confines of a terrace. I was born without necessary instincts nor capacity to learn from repetitive mistakes. Garden books explain mint as nearly impossible to kill. Nearly, however, allows some room for the ardent kisses of my fatal attachment. Few would recognize it as a garden, I admit, though that is the word I give it, a collection of cement pots planted with varieties of mint set across the edge of a small terrace. If few see a garden, fewer see reasons for attachment, least of all, those fate cuffs together. Reasons get made up, rationales to decorate desires, irrational passions. Various tubes and wires connect him to the hospital. The doctors concoct countless rules to keep people out. Day by day, he doesn't get better, let alone well. He lies uncomplaining. The sick submit to their impotence. On the way to the hospital, the ambulance sang its siren song. What's happening? What's wrong? Worthless questions, as the answers are all lies. The triage room rings out with desperate howls of chaos. The treatment room whispers hymns of hope from one bed, while the other bed immerses in sighs that attend a persistent parade of resignation and despair. After several days, another ambulance readies to take him home. Quietly this time, to surround him with family and neighbors, the music of familiar voices, and bright talk that's all lies too. Mint doesn't grow without effort, despite the reputation. It requires constant attention, balances of water, sun, and soil, continual pruning and replanting, vigilance against invaders, a word or two of love now and then to ease the stress of work. It takes a long time to realize mistakes, longer to appreciate to appreciate them. The essence of ment requires gentle patience to maintain, and neither realization nor appreciation is immunity against the next time. Water at hand, I tend to the plants every morning, keeping alert for changes in men's well-being and my fitness to steward them. The sweet bouquet of mint fans over the terrace, and all thoughts of hardship float away. I do my best, which doesn't mean I do the right things or the sensible things or even know what those things would be. I do my best. In a righteous world, he would have survived me. This poem is from a festschrift for Glenna Horton. She was the publisher of a journal I helped edit a long time ago. Solo. It's called Looking Through the James Webb Telescope. To start, no one actually looks through it. Too far away, doesn't work the way you think. Revelations too dear for naked eyes. To see the heavens clearly, as to see life clearly, one must turn to the conceits of art. Nothing else even comes close. It's all there in the images, the music of spheres opposed by Pythagoras, Nietzsche's in chaos, birthing dancing stars, the mysterious in which Einstein experienced the most beautiful, Miro's startling paints, seen only a second, but thought about a whole lifetime. Only words make it possible to look that far as one can see, as far as can be seen. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Haley. Thank you, Chuck. And thank you to all of you. Your words, they're so touching. There's wonderful, wonderful stuff. Touches my heart, and this is why I'm going to read Tale from the Heart, which was also published there in the fall issue. Starts with an epigraph from Proust, which is pretty ridiculous, I know, but the anesthetizing influence of habit having ceased, I would begin to have thoughts and feelings, and they are such sad things. It's impossible to sleep on the cardiac ward amid the relentless chaos of monitors buzzing and beeping. This litany of sounds is offset for a time by my finding a Zen channel on the oversized remote, a soothing female voice leading me on a guided meditation away from the reality of this cacophony of electronic sounds anticipating crises. The endless stream of nurses, doctors, aides, and supervisors checking, rechecking, bringing medications, and verifying that I am in fact the same me on my bracelet that is declared. Reemerge from my meditation into the small blue hospital room. There's no privacy here, no sleep, no respite, and no way to reach the flimsy curtains that might offer an illusion of privacy. Instead, I'm at the mercy of this strange, noisy environment and the fact that my new roommate is a talker and a moaner. At perhaps 3 a.m, he browbeats a PA who answers the assistant's call into hearing his whole tale. A procedure done a week prior that did not provide improvement, the unsettling feeling of getting winded after the slightest. This was my 3rd time hearing it. Small variations, not improving the allure of the pensive narrative. This sent him into the local urgent care, who happily forwarded him to the hospital room where the older captain of industry could be better beeped, buzzed, and monitored, better apprised of why his ticker lacked oomph. This had been his 2nd major recent procedure. He wanted to know next steps, what options remained. Said PA tried his level best to better explain the past procedures, along with what his current testing and observations might reveal. This man wanted to know if the upbeat PA might be able to get him a list of the hospital's cardiologists so that he could select a new successor from among them to deal with the very powerful man's sudden lack of power. The PA asked him who his current cardiologist was. When told, he said she was one of the very best. That's the problem, my roomie said. She's always busy. Never seems to have enough time for me, it seems. Give me that list, would you? He inquired again as to this PA's name as I watched the man escape hastily, eyes rolling. Next came a team to count the bills in this man's wallet so that it could be stored in a safe. It was $177. He asked every nurse and attendant to get him that PA as he impatiently awaited that promised list. When my roomie's secretary called the next morning, he instructed her to cancel and reschedule all meetings. I'm in the hospital, he told her, but I'm getting out soon. The world of business waits for no man's fickle tigger. Time is money, they say, and his voice conveyed the sense that he didn't have time for these beeping, buzzing things, keeping him from his corner office, where he ruled the world of entitlement he had built around him. I tried not to hear any of it, but it was ambient noise, along with a series of deeply disturbing moans and sighs. For a night we were roommates, seeking a morning of better times and mutual release back into society. Me with my little poems about shared humanity, and the old capitalist whose groans punctuated an already endless symphony of distress, because like some disappointing summer hire, his heart had turned unreliable, and he had no answer for this, his own body's unexpected betrayal. And that's pretty long. I don't know if you want the second one. So I think maybe we go with that, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for being here. And thank you to all our invited mic readers from Sheila-Na-Gig's online 10.2 volume, fall 2025. We're in our 10th year this year. It's pretty amazing. And many thanks to Chuck. We are celebrating his book, Surviving the EREMOCENE. So I'm very excited to do that. You can find our readers and all our books available at Sheila-Na-Gig blog.com. So thank you, everybody, for being here and supporting us.